Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can create for yourself, step by step, this adorable cottage scene with a thatched roof. I'm going to break down every part of this, every color mix, every technique, every tool that you need to use. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He is going to help bring this lesson to you with me by making sure that one of our robotic cameras is pointing at these techniques and tools that I am demonstrating. Also, if you check the description down below, is a bunch of extra goodies. The materials that I'm using in this lesson are listed down there. Canvas, paint colors, all of that. Anything that you might see in the show today that you would like, I also have a link to my art store. So if you'd like that tool, I might have that available for sale there. And there's also a link to something I call the traceable. So I'm going to break down how to draw this step by step, but I also provide a free traceable that you can download and use. So whatever is right for you is absolutely perfect and completely good with me. There's really nothing to do for you to get your paint, get your brushes, and come back and meet me at the easel right now. We're going to paint this together. So for today's class, I'm using an 8x8 canvas. This particular one happens to be the Art Alternatives Classic Cotton. I really do like these, but just use whatever you have. On my palette, I have burnt sienna, phthalo green, yellow ochre, cad yellow medium, cad red medium, quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, little dioxazine purple, Mars black, titanium white, and this little milky plop is some satin glazing liquid. I may do that to create some nice shadow and cool effects on the cottage today. All right, let's get on to step one. So for today's underpainting or acrylic ground, I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to divide the canvas in half. Let me grab an angle brush here. This is a 3/4 inch angle brush, which sometimes for some reason I call 3/8 inch out of the random blue. I'm going to go ahead and divide the canvas in half. The top half will be a blue and the bottom half will be a very dark green. But to do that, I'm going to go ahead and grab a little ultramarine blue on the tip of my brush and mark the 4-inch point, which is the half point of my canvas because it's an 8x8. And then I'll just come across here and make a little line. And that just helps me divide my canvas in half. I'm going to paint the top. I'll load up the whole top with just a little bit of ultramarine blue. It doesn't need to be particularly neat or tidy. We're just making sure that there's color on the canvas. That's really the critical thing here. It's getting some color, get some paint on the canvas.
And that gets in. You use this color because it helps create the foundation for the background. Yes,
it helps. It works with the background that I'm putting in, so that's why I'm picking the blue for up top because I've got a sky area. And then it works for the ground where I'm putting in the garden in front of the cottage.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so just put that in. I'll come back and forth. I'll go ahead and give it a horizontal brush stroke where I redirect it. That'll be nice for the sky when we go to paint that in. I don't even have to worry about rinsing my brush. I'm going to come over and take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my phthalo green together and paint the whole bottom half burnt sienna and phthalo green. Now, we won't have this hard break when we go to paint in the painting. It won't be divided like this the whole way through. We'll have little bushes and fun little plants coming up, breaking up this little line, making it more interesting. Little burnt sienna and a little phthalo green makes a nice dark foresty green. Really puts us in the deep dark forest.
Oh yeah, provides some earth to stand on.
Yeah, well, you got to have the plants need to feel like they're growing out of something. And you can see I'm just getting the paint on the canvas. That's my major goal here, is just to get some paint on the canvas. I'll go ahead and straighten out the brush strokes a little bit. Make sure it's around the edge so for framing later. And then after this, I'm going to want to dry everything. So let's dry everything. And when we come back, I'm going to show you what to do next. Now I'm going to say a note on drying. Be sure and put your hairdryer on the low setting. That prevents a couple of things. On some paint, it's very color sensitive to color shift, and really hot temperatures can make that worse. And the other thing is you don't want to run really, really hot temperatures over acrylic because, you know, not good for you. So just a regular hairdryer, and I think a hairdryer on the low setting, since these new hairdryers are so powerful these days. These are like, I have a hairdryer right now that's like being in a wind tunnel. So, all right, when we come back with our canvases dry, I'll show you what we do next. So in this step, I'm going to take my 1-inch Princeton Select Oval Mop, and I am going to go ahead and put it a little bit in my glazing liquid. This is just to keep my paint from drying on me too quickly. I'm going to load up a little bit of white just into the brush, and then I'll get some of my Ultramarine blue. I'm going to come across here and make a very light sky. And what's nice is because it's blue underneath, and I'm adding this lighter area, even where it's transparent, it will really feel as blue through. I'm going to brush up as far as the paint will take me. And then I'm going to come back in and get a little more ultramarine blue on my brush, flip it over, and kind of come up from the top, brushing down. And I'm just looking to create a nice little gradation of a light blue sky that could be right here. I can always come back through, loading up a little white and a little blue. And just brush right back up, improving that. So once I have that great graded out sky, I'm going to go ahead and take a nice opportunity to make my bottom background even darker. I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my phthalo green and go ahead and just brush it across here, making it even darker. Almost like a chromatic black, but it's green. That'll really help my bright colors just pop, pop, pop. And then once I have that, I'm going to dry it. Just back and forth. Okay, when you have your nice sky in and your deep ground in, rinse your brush out. Make sure you wipe out all the extra water from it with a towel. And we're going to dry everything with our hairdryer. And when we come back, I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. So the next thing I'm doing, I'm going to put out a little paint. I'm going to put out a little Cad Yellow and Cad Red so that I can make a little bit of orange right here. This is going to be my middle orange, and it's going to allow me to lighten it with yellow and darken it with red very easily, and then gray it with a Dioxazine Purple up top. So it's going to be like 2 parts yellow to 1 part red. And then I'm going to mix it together with an artist knife. Just come here and mix this together with an artist knife. And so I can really work this orange into the surrounding colors where I need to for halftones. We're going to be using this to help hide our little winter trees that are in the distant sky. Use some graying tactics so that feels like autumn far away. All right, I'm going to wipe off my little artist knife there, and I'm going to grab a number 8 Raphael D'Artigny brush. I'm going to get it wet, and then I'm going to take a towel and take out all the extra water. Now, I like this brush because it's hog bristles and it's round and it does nice dry brushing and nice bush effects for me. So you're going to want to find a brush in your brush bucket that you feel like, oh, that's my great tree brush. That's my good bush brush. And if you don't have one, I can highly recommend this one. It's a good one. All right, so I'm going to come over and mix my kind of sky color, maybe like a shade darker. Just a shade. And then I'm going to get a smidge of my orange in there. Now I'm going to come here and begin to tap in some distant, these are distant little trees. Just coming over from this side, I'll probably bring them to about here. Just tapping my brush up and down. I'm trying to make irregular shapes. That's really the big thing. You want to make some irregular shapes. Just kind of pushing this in from the edge. I like my bushes to exist in the world. Bring this down. Even though I'm going to be bringing darker and darker kind of foliage coming forward. kind of bring this around here. Little happy little bush. Happy little tree from far away. Pushing that out there. Now I don't need to carry it too much further back from this because we've got the cottage, which is going to be in front of it. And that's pretty good. I want to add some more little bush here. So I'm going to take a little more of my orange and I'm bringing it over a little bit to my ultramarine blue. Let's bring in a little darker green foliage coming forward. So these really gray each other out, which is nice. Gives you a really different green than this, but still a very dark, muted green. Just pushing that in. It's looking pretty good. A little bit like that. And I'll take it down just a bit past my little line here. Blend that in. Just so I can layer with my forward foliage easily. So I'm just bringing that down just a smidge. Just a little bit. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to go ahead and dry all of this, and when we come back, I'll show you what we do next. So I looked to see if chalk was going to be a viable option for me to sketch the house in on my particular painting so that you guys could see it at home. And I pretty quickly figured out that no, I definitely am going to have to do this in paint. But for you at home, I recommend doing the following in chalk. Now, if you don't want to draw this in, there is a free traceable, again, in the description down below that you can download and transfer the cottage on now, if that's what you want to do. And that is completely okay. But if you're curious about like how you would block this in, you can follow along with me. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find the side of my house and the height of my house. I'm going to come over here towards my right. And I'm going to just do this in black paint because it's a good base for the cottage. I'm going to try to get as straight of a little cottage line here as I can. And take that down to just about 5 inches from the top. And then I'm going to come across from the side. Now, what's nice about this is that we're going to paint our building over, but there's going to be so many bushes over here to the left that it's definitely not going to be that intense for you. I'm going to come up just a little bit below the line, that little roof line there, and I'm going to make another little, it's going to come out just a smidge from the edge. And then I'm going to come from the top, and I will stop it just a little bit short of here, and then test my angle. Here we go. Just kind of bring this down. Now what's nice is because it's going to be a thatched roof, we don't have to be super perfect over here because we're going to have nice little straw coming down. The other thing I'm going to want to do is put in a window. Actually, I might paint the whole building in black first and then put in the door with color actually later, and with the what is it, the molding later. So I'm going to just paint this in.
Molding? Oh, like the outside of the...
Yeah, like around the window, the window molding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just like let the window show from that instead of trying to like do negative space around it.
Oh, right.
Just going to do this in black today. This is a good basis for this.
Can't see into your imagination, so...
You can't?
Not yet.
I thought you could. We've been married a really long time.
After a couple of hours of watching you paint, we can see it.
Huh. That is why we do a picture-in-picture. So we're leaving people where they don't have to guess. So a lot of times in painting in the beginning, it's just about roughing in things. And again, the building really is going to end kind of over here, but because it is a little bit of a, I might do the roof with a little burnt sienna and Mars black just so that it's obvious that these are two different zones. And I kind of do the brush down at a little bit of an angle that follows this angle here. And while I'm at this, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of my yellow ochre, just because it's a good color for this. And I'm going to say, let's put a door right around here, I think. And I'm going to just very carefully, getting wider and wider and kind of turning now. A little bit of a pathway to the cottage lined up. So there's a little bit of a curve, perhaps narrowing into their pathway between the garden. Just something that we can see that leads us in. We don't have to be particularly tidy or totally together at this point. Now, once you have this fun mess in, we're going to want to dry it, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do together when we come back. So I'm going to come down from the bottom, and I need to make a decision about the width of my door. I'm going to take my number 6 Raphael sepia round, and I'm going to go ahead and mix a little of my Cad Red and my Dioxazine Purple together. I'm going to make a nice little deep Merlot color. And make a door at least as wide as the path coming up to it. Like, it has to be believable that you could step off the path and get there. And then you want to have enough height on your door that somebody could walk through it, but enough ceiling room where people can stand inside the house. I'm going to just do this up here. I can always make my door bigger. Tough to make it smaller. Not impossibly tough, just tough. And since the door has the, it's kind of red there, I'm going to go ahead and put a little window right about here. Just using the ruler, this T-square ruler, to help me draw straight lines. And at first, we're just sketching it in. This is just a sketch. We're just sketching it in. Then once I have...
Once you know where it's at.
Once I know where it's at, I'm going to paint... the door in. Then I'm going to also go ahead and take in a little bit of my red here. To start my window. A little crossbar in it, just so I know where I'm at. Now I'm going to want to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre. Paint in kind of roughly so I'm doing it roughly around these objects. So it's burnt sienna and yellow ochre. But I'm letting, dry brush wise, I'm letting a lot of the dark underneath show through. This is how we're going to layer up our old patina on our building. Now, keep in mind you don't have to draw the best house of your life down here because we have so many bushes and plants that are blocking so much. Come across here and just roughly paint this in.
Yeah, just blocking the color.
Just blocking it in stages. We want to get a certain amount of the house in so that we can layer the plant life and the landscape around it. That's all we're doing. And again, you don't have to be too particularly worried with any of this because we're going to have this thatched roof and that's kind of like loose and messy and uneven and that'll be really fun. Now let's dry everything. When we come back, I'll show you what we're going to do next. So John noticed a little spot here on the path, and I just want to assure you that it doesn't matter, and it doesn't need to specifically be there, but it doesn't hurt anything by being there. That way you are aware. I'm going to take a number 0 Raphael d'Artigny D brush. This is a small brush that has a bit of a filbert shape to it. It's got a little bit of a blending in. It's hog bristles, so it dry brushes really well. And I'm going to begin by painting up a brighter and brighter red level on my door, and then adding a little perspective shadow. I get a chance. So I come here and I use the edges of the bristles to straighten anything out, and then I'm dry brushing this down. Kind of a brighter little door that's there. I'm going to go ahead and get a little black on my brush. And I'm very carefully kind of come underneath here and a little bit at the side. Kind of pushes it a little into a door jamb, if that makes sense. So there's a bit of a door jamb there. I'll put this to the side for a second. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take the same red and just paint in my sill a little bit. Just so that's a slightly brighter color. I'm going to grab my little, I think I'll go with my D brush again. And I'm going to get into my yellow ochre and burnt sienna. And this time I'm going to add some titanium white into the mix. And we're going to add some stuccoing. Dry brushing down. I'm just vertically dry brushing or just putting some stucco in. Sometimes I might come across just rough where the layers are showing through. That's going to build up the patina, the age of the building. I'm being very rough with it. Now I'll grab a little of my black onto my brush, maybe even a little of my blue, and it gets this gray. I'm going to come underneath here and add a bit of a shadow. And then a bit darker over here, and you'll see why once we put the trees and bushes in, but we want kind of to shade up a little bit in that corner. Go back into my yellow ochre. Start to just put some little highlights here. A little bit into the shadow color again. Just kind of nudge that into a under the window shadow. Grab some yellow. And scribble that in. Scribbling it in. Scribble in a little yellow. Really, these old buildings are just about layer, 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 layer. Layer, 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 layer.
Many layers have built up.
The many layers that have built up. Just dry brushing it in. Old rustic cottage should be old and rustic, right? I'm going to take a little bit more of my red. And dry brush a little more red through here. Be clean with some lines. I mean, it's picking up some color and it's getting cheerful. We're getting some cheerfulness going. I'm going to grab a little bit of my red and my round. This is my number 6 sepia round. Just a little more red. Just a little bit, just to touch up. Now, I want to dry this whole thing, and when we come back, I'll show you what fun step we get to do next. Okay, so in this step, I'm going to take my number 8 Raphael d'Artigny brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of a tree behind our cottage. I'm going to take my Dioxazine Purple and my Cad Red, and I'm going to make my dark, dark, dark kind of foliagey color, my fall foliage color, and I'm going to, just on the toe of my brush, try to create an interesting little edge to a tree that's back here, right? Where it's just got a little bit of
tree back here feel.
Tree back here feel. And I'm doing this here so that when I layer my thatch, the tree behind it feels very behind it. We want the tree behind to feel very behind. And go darker, darker purple. It gets quite dark as it comes over here. I can't paint the forward tree till I get the thatch roofed in this particular part. This distant background kind of little. All right. I'm going to let that have. It's going to think about what it's done. And we're going to come here and I am going to take a little of my black and brown together. And then I'm going to just come down my little roof. brushing off. Making this little thatched edge, which will be a little hard to see until I highlight it. But have no fear, a thatched roof is here. So I'm just brushing down. When you have something like a thatched roof that's tiled, it's a good idea to tile your brush strokes because that will help it feel believable. There we go. Then as I'm coming forward, I'm going to continue to add in more color. I'm going to grab a little bit of my burnt sienna and my orange that I mixed from earlier. Very lightly brush the next layer of straw color. Straw is very colorful. Oh, thatch in the roof. Thatch in the roof. Thatch in the roof. It's very metal.
Medieval metal.
Medieval metal. I'm so good at building, I build my roof out of dirt and straw. When you really think about it. Have all these like expensive building materials today. Barely survives anything. Got 500-year-old cottages with straw roofs. Just saying,
they just handle it.
They just handle it. Now I'm going to come along the top. I want the top of my roof to kind of be a little bit rounded. So I'm going to come with my round brush and just make sure that there is some smoothness to this. Just brushing across the top just so it has that gathered feel. You want it to be gathered. To gather the wool, as they say, but not the wolves. Grab a little bit of my just yellow ochre. Again, a lot of tree here. Don't paint the best thatch roof of your life back here. It's doing pretty good. Looks pretty thatchy already. I'm going to take a little bit of my cad yellow and my yellow ochre. Lighter dusting this time. And then I'm going to get some of my titanium white. Rinse this out, and then very carefully, I'm going to take this brush. I'm going to make sure with my towel that it's dry, dry, dry. I'm going to squeeze it, kind of open up the little filaments there, so it's almost like a fan. A little bit of a highlight at the top of the roof.
That little sun-kissed crest.
Little sun-kissed crest of a thatched roof. Okay, I really like that. Now, for the next part, we've really got to dry it. So let's dry thoroughly with our hair dryers. And when we come back, I'm going to show you what we do next. So now I've got to build a lot of tree over on my left-hand side. I'm going to take my Dioxazine Purple into my Cad Red. And I'm going to use my number 8 Raphael D'Artagnan brush. And I'm going to just build the tree that is in front. just bringing it off here. Now back here it's more solid, it's darker. We'll see that with highlights, but this little edge we want it to be irregular. It's an irregular choice. Back here. Fill that out. Bring that down. Quite dark coming forward. Just working my brush into an inch of its little brushness. It's feeling it. It's like, man. Just making sure I got little leaves. Then when I have those little leaves up, I'm going to come in and get just a little more of my red involved. And let's tap up here, adding a little branch. Just a slightly highlighted, little redder. Dark, dark trees coming forward, isn't it? It's going to be so pretty. And get a little bit of my red and my orange together. I haven't rinsed my brush. Tap little highlights along there. Ooh, it's like fire. Fire bush. I like fire bushes. Oh, fire bush. Tapping that down, seeing how we like it. Do we like it? Does it make us happy? Does it itch that part of our brain that looks to know when things have found their balance? They look how we like them to look. Look at that little tree just coming off there, being super cute. Now to do the next layers, I've really got to dry this. So let's dry it. When we come back, I'll show you what we do next. So I'm going to take my round brush here and make sure it's all rinsed out from all the paint that's in it. Wipe it off. This again is the number 8 Raphael d'Artagnan brush. I like hog bristle brushes for doing bushes. I will not hide that from you. I do. I think they're great. I'm going to take a little of my burnt sienna into my phthalo green, and I'm going to add some yellow to it, maybe a little more burnt sienna. I want a green gold. The other way I can get a green gold is ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. I'm going to just go ahead and come along this edge. Paint that in. Just along that edge, just a little bit of green. Then I can get back into my darker green as I'm coming forward. Just get right in. I just take my brush right over to it. So it's super easy to shade out the green and really get that where I want it. And rinse out. And I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna, my yellow ochre, and a little bit of Mars black. Or Mars black. This is that there too, so we can get it a couple places. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to draw right across here, dark line. Going to add some of this color to the pathway. I can also get my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue together and make a little blue grade shadow towards the front of the path. Just bringing that through. Back into my little path color, and then we start getting into the white. That's how we get our dirt. You want some dirt. Just bring a few little marks here and there, just to show that the path has highlights and shadows. A little more white. And little paths, little spots in the path. Just a little path. I take a little of my burnt sienna, my phthalo green together. Very dark green. Bring that over here. Sometimes I just like the sound that makes. Just makes me super happy. There's darkness. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And a little bit more yellow. Still green though. Sometimes I bring a little moss into the path. Bring a little moss into the path. Okay. We've got some bases here. We're going to dry this, come back, and we're going to add some garden to our garden. I love that. That's going to be fun. So I'm going to get back into my dark green, which is my burnt sienna and my phthalo green, and I'm using my number 8 Raphael still. Just make sure that there's some nice areas where I can kind of maybe blend wet into wet when I need to. Take this dark, dark, dark color back this way. It's quite dark. Same here. And then I'm going to come in and add a little yellow. Start to put in some middle range foliage. Tapping down into the bush, so that's sort of interesting. Gonna overgrow my garden a little bit. Bring some yellow over to my green. Rinse out a little. I'm going to want to get a little of my yellow into my green gold here. Just find that green. Little bits, little bits. Take a little yellow over towards the little green and brown here. Make a slightly darker yellow gold. Add just a few little spots of lighter greenery through here that we can pick up on. Just pushing that back there. It looks pretty good. Come here and take a little bit of my Cad Red and my Quin Magenta. Add a little bit of white. A little bit of pink here. A pink color in the garden. Sometimes the garden might have a little pink. Got a slightly lighter version of this and come right here. These could be little roses. These could be lots of little flowers are pink like this. And I'm just using my number 8 brush and I'm just allowing it to be messy. See how a lot of times people send me pictures of these brushes when they get like this and they're all flared out and they feel, I don't know, can we zoom in on it? See how that looks all crazy? Yeah. Right? And that can feel frustrating when you buy a new brush and you're like, man, it didn't even hold a point. These brushes don't really do that, but they do this really great. There we go. Now I'm going to rinse out. To do the next part, I think I do want it to be dry so I can pop some bright, bright color on it. So let's dry everything. When we come back, I'll show you what we do next. So now I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and I'm going to let a little green get in it. Maybe even a little brown. Too much brown. So you want a bright color, but it does need to be muted a little bit. And by taking it into the green and the yellow, we can kind of start to pull some of those little colors out. Just a little bit here and there. Get a little more yellow, yellow. That's bright. I'm going to add some white. And even a little more white. It's not quite white, but like the bright part of the yellow. That looks pretty good. Rinse out. Now let's plant that same flower across the way. So I'm going to take my grayed out yellow here. And let's I can come in and get different colors. A little bit of yellow there. I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad Red and my Dox Purple from earlier, and I'm going to make a rich red, but not an overly bright red. And add some flowers that are coming back here. Just touching the canvas and leaving big marks and small marks, and that's what's making the flowers. Big marks and small marks. Okay, so I'm going to come forward. I'm going to really start to have some fun in my little bushes now, and I've got my, let's start with a little bit of orange. And I'll get some red into it. So you can see I can start to really, really play. It's just a good idea to take this one step at a time. I can add more yellow as I go out.
I like the orangey ones. These are nice.
Now, if you have very inexpensive yellow, this technique can be a little bit challenging because the yellow can have trouble covering the dark colors. And it would be real tough to paint this one white first. Get some more red. And still get a good result. So I get darker when I come down low into what would be the shadow. So we just want this garden to be full.
Gotta have full of flowers.
Full of flowers. You want the world to just be a bloom. Even though maybe in autumn it wouldn't be. But we'd like to think that we could have this tree and these flowers at the same time. Every once in a while I have to rinse out my brush. That's a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that the paint starts to dry on it.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Just really fill up the garden. If ever I get a little spot, I kind of work it a little bit. Get a little bit of yellow. Sometimes I'll roll my brush and improve the shape of it just so that when I touch it to the canvas, I'm getting marks I like. A little bit of yellow and white again. And more white. Let's take a look at that overhead, see how we like it. Just blooming out the garden, right?
Yeah, it's coming together.
It's coming together. All right, we've got to come over here and plant some flowers too. We don't want it to just be one-sided, right? We want the garden. I want to add some more out this way. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and my green. A little bit out that way. Let's get some of our red. Come over here to this far corner. Meow. Come out maybe a little bit of touch of the red here too. Just on this side, that's really attractive. Just making planting little flowers. That's all you're doing. When you're touching the brush of the canvas, you're planting little flowers. And it's okay to plant a few little flowers. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone, smidge of my white. Those can mix a little bit. A little pink there, so it's pink, pink, pink. Makes a nice little triangle. Let's get a little bit of our orange. Grab a little yellow. Little white. Okay. Let's look overhead. Well, that's looking very, very nice. Now I want to do a couple of things. I want to take a little bit of my burnt sienna. Actually, let's put this up as another step. Let's come back and do this as another. So let's dry everything and come back and do this next part as another step.
Okay.
So I want to do a few little touchy up things on my house. I'm going to come here and grab some of my white into my burnt sienna, Mars black, and yellow ochre. I want a little bit more, maybe a little more yellow ochre into that. Lighter color. And then come right here and very carefully along my door jamb, just kind of rid myself of that shadow I don't want there. Just cleaning that up. Clean that up just a little bit. Then I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue together. Make a nice blue-gray. Grab some glazing liquid. And come here and kind of glaze out a bit of a shadow along that house. I think I'm going to just very carefully pull down a little shading from the thatching. Maybe a little bit along here. Oh, show the thatching in like its little levels, its little layers. Just kind of glaze my door a bit. It's a little bright. I just want it to patina out. But I'll let it be a little bit lighter right there. Grab a little bit of blue. Go ahead, I'm gonna just add a little reflection in this glass. Just a little bit there, just to make it seem a little more interesting. All right, let's look at this overhead. I'm liking it. I like it pretty well. I think I get a little excited with my thatch, but I'm actually really happy with this cottage. I would love to stay there on vacation.
Yeah,
that's where I would like to go.
I would go there.
I would go here. I might come over and just make sure my thatch is a little more even on the come down over here.
Oh yeah, I see what you're seeing. Over there.
Just a little. Just so that edge of that thatch looks like it's part of the whole building. I like that. I might take some of that thatch down. Just making sure that the thatch I have on my roof feels like a roof. Like a proper solid roof.
Right, yeah.
That would protect you from some elements. Maybe not today's elements, maybe not the modern elements that we have now, but a regular kind of rainstorm. I'm going to take a number 0 Raphael Precision. I'll go ahead and get maybe some glazing on here. And I'll come over into my bright green. Get a little white. So this is my bright, bright green. And I'm going to go ahead and sign my painting with that bright color. Just a little happy scene where we could let our mind go for a second and have a relax and a reset. All right. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what to do next. So once you have completed your painting, the first thing I'd love to do is I would love it if you would be willing to show me your result, and you can find me online, hashtag the Art Sherpa, on all the social media places. I also have a private closed group called the Art Sherpa Official on Facebook. It's a closed and curated group, very nice, very friendly, no craziness in it whatsoever, just all art all the time. Art hauls, painting shares, all of that. If you do lessons, if you've done lessons with me here online, it is a perfect place to share those and know that you're going to be treated really, really well by the community in that group. So I'd love to see that. The other thing is to congratulate yourself for completing such a fun and happy painting. I hope you're going to enjoy having it on your wall as much as I enjoyed painting it with you. Mm-hmm. And other than that, I want you to be good to yourself, be good to each other, and I will see you at an easel real soon. Bye-bye.